In today's aquarium video, let's take a deep dive into one of the aquarium plants that will take over your aquarium. I've had a few videos on this plant already, and of course I've had this plant for many years, and it is Indian Fern, one of the Water Sprite family of aquarium plants. Hi everyone, Colin here, welcome back to another aquarium video. This particular plant is a gorgeously attractive looking plant. Look at that leaf. And this plant is going to look incredibly beautiful in an aquarium, although it is not going to be an aquascaper's delight. It is a plant you will never be able to keep under control. You can put it in your aquarium and it will usually, from the very beginning, begin to take over your tank. So plants like Java Fern take quite a while to establish, and Java Fern can make an enormous colony of plants in your tank. But unlike Java Fern, Indian Fern is going to explode. When it begins to grow, it will proliferate to the point where it really just takes over the entire tank, and it will blanket the surface in a carpet of one or a multitude of a colony of plants which will just totally take over the entire surface. They do prefer to float, so you might begin to have them as a small plant, anchor it down to the bottom, but the roots are very weak. The roots will not actually hold it into the aquarium bottom. So even though it may start down in the aquarium, it will usually lift up and get up to the surface. And once on the surface, it will form a dense matting. And that dense mat of plant will throw up these magnificent curling fronds above the water. And that plant will just get bigger and thicker and denser as time goes by, to the point where it will just be the only plant on the top of your aquarium. So if you like an aquarium that's all neat and tidy, where you can trim and make everything look just the way you want it to look, this plant would be terrible for you, because there's absolutely no way that you can control Indian Fern. It will grow where it wants, when it wants, how it wants, and you will not be able to keep it trim, neat or tidy. So Water Sprite and Indian Fern are terrible plants for aquascaping, but what they are really good for is for the aquarium as a whole. What it will do is improve the water quality for the health and well-being of the entire tank. Being a floating plant predominantly, as it covers the surface, it will actually reduce the amount of algae growing down lower in the tank. So algae control is one of the really great benefits of having plants which are as fast growing like Indian Fern, because with that fast growth, they're absorbing lots and lots of fish waste that accumulates in the water. And fast growing plants are cleaning the water by taking out those phosphates and nitrates and making the habitat far more healthy. Which brings us to one of the real benefits of having plants like Indian Fern and Water Sprite. These plants are tremendous for breeding fish. So as the plants on the surface, they have the roots which hang down into the water. It's a tremendous place for egg-laying fish to scatter their eggs, and for the eggs to be well hidden until they hatch. And for other fish with live-bearing young, those small fish are able to hide amongst the leaves on the surface and be hidden from more hungry fish down below. In fact, one of the very best features of this plant may be how well it helps fish to breed. If you look at this incredible jungle of dense matting of plants on the top of the water surface, you can easily see how eggs and young fry can really be well hidden from adult fish down below. And what the fry are able to do, as they're hidden amongst all those leaves, is find their own food, which, very rich in Fusoria, will tend to grow in that shallow water right at the surface, where these fish are safe from bigger fish down below. This plant, originally from Central and Southeast Asia, would be the most easily grown aquarium plant for any beginner to start with. It doesn't have great requirements when it comes to lighting or water parameters, so temperature or water hardness. It will take whatever it gets and survive, and if you want it to actually grow better, then of course regular lighting and some fertilization will really make it thicken up and become very dense and grow to the point where it will take over your aquarium. As that happens, as it grows so quickly with good lighting and with good fertilization, you will have a very bright aquarium up at the top with some magnificent plant growth, and then down lower in the tank underneath all those plants it'll become pretty dark, and the bottom of the tank can get so dark that you'll have to take some of those plants out because they really do block off most of the light. Now, as you take those extra plants out, the question is what you're going to do with them. So I used to take a lot of these plants back to my local aquarium stores, and I would get store credit for other fish or fish foods or things of that type. But since the lockdowns we've been experiencing around the world with this virus, I've begun to sell these plants online. And these little baby plants you can see coming out, the Indian Fern, the Java Fern, they're all growing from spores on the parent's larger leaves. And these little plants that grow from those spores, once they're large enough, they can be separated and removed, and they are all big enough to grow off on their own as a separate new plant. So I'm taking out this amount of plants from this 3-foot tank about every 6 to 8 weeks, and there are probably over 100 plants that I'm removing, and these days that's what I'm selling. So that's really helping to get some money back for this hobby and help me look after my tank and look after my fish. So Indian Fern and most types of fern, tremendous plants to grow in an aquarium. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you've enjoyed looking at just how wonderful Water Sprite and Indian Fern in particular is as an aquarium plant, and well worth thinking about if you want to breed fish. So thanks for watching. I hope your tanks are going well, and why not click here for another aquarium video.